Before I crack on with today's video, I just want to announce that I've got a little competition running, and that's from the start of October until the first week of December. How it works is for every virtual coffee that is bought for me through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description, and for every monthly Patreon subscription, that'll be entry into a raffle to win one of the pieces that I've made this year. So if you bought me 2 coffees, that would be 2 entries into the raffle. If you subscribe to Patreon for the next 3 months, that'll be 3 entries into the raffle. That's how it kind of works. And then I'll find a way of doing a sort of live draw and making sure it's completely transparent. And the winner of that, I'll get to choose from the selection of mirrors that will be available. So anyway, that's that. On to today's vid. So if you subscribe to this channel, you know the majority of it is traditional techniques, but there's also experimenting with new stuff. Some of that being the technology that supports the growth of the craft. Now, I've done a lot of stuff on Kittle, which is a kind of design platform where there's a lot of templates and you can kind of edit them and stuff like that. I could see why something like that would be divisive in the industry. Personally, I've been in the creative industry for the last 18 years, and that includes graphic design, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant addition to anyone's toolkit. However, the next thing, AI art, is a different kettle of fish. This is something where with just a few words, you can create absolutely stunning art with absolutely zero skill. And what I'm going to do is be using that today to see if I can create a mirror with just a few simple words, or a mirror design anyway. So let's crack on with it. So first, I'm just going to talk you through the concept of an AI art generator and how this works. So here's just a little kind of example here, which is some logos I generated, and this is what I typed in. Black metal logo, demon, fire, 2D and flat. And then it generates these for you. Now, it's quite hit and miss, and it's largely unpredictable. And I'm assuming it's using search engines and the top results in search engines to sort of feed what it uses to generate the images. And I'll show you a kind of example of that. So I want us to do a kind of almost classical Art Nouveau style Hellraiser design. So I typed in pinhead, layment configuration, Art Nouveau, and see what I was going to get from those 3 things. And the result was awesome. You know, these, although they don't quite look like pinhead, these are just so unique and really, really nice. They're the style that I was hoping for. They've clearly referenced who he is and who the actor is who plays him, because it does look a bit like Doug Bradley. This has definitely got a kind of layment configuration style vibe to it. You know, so it's random, but it's really, really nice. And it is also hit and miss. You know, let's have a look at some of the other ones that I've actually generated. So up here, I put in engraved portrait of Bane. And I mean, it's not Bane, but it's certainly referenced him, you know, like from The Dark Knight Rises. And I mean, in terms of engraved portrait, they're so nice. They're just a really nice range of images. I did the same with, went for a Lovecraftian design and wanted Cthulhu in a sort of storm at night in the style of Frank Miller's Sin City. So put a lot of keywords in there, and these are just awesome. They're such a cool set of images, you know, especially just to generate these out of nothing. I mean, if I was a concept artist, I'd be really worried about this sort of technology, you know, because it's so good and you can just generate so many different variants so quickly. And having looked this up online, I've seen people who have made entire comics from just using AI generated art. So, you know, it's worrying for some industries, I imagine. Still, there's always the times that it doesn't work. So I wanted to make a kind of Victorian advert for a time machine, and it doesn't handle text very well at all. I tried to make myself a Happy Gilda logo using just HG, and it couldn't even figure out HG. So text, not so much. Also, I just wanted something quirky. I asked my friend to send me some random words, and I was going to generate an image for her. She said, duck riding a sausage dog wearing pajamas, and what it came back with was pretty horrifying. So it's sort of some sausage dog duck hybrid with demon eyes. And I mean, that was pretty much the most normal one. It then gave me this and these. So, I mean, they're pretty hilarious, but I mean, it's Not obviously, it's far from perfect, you know. But that's a sort of introduction to this AI art generator and how I've been playing about with it. So let's jump across now and show you how to get hold of it and get started making your own logo design. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to the website and sign up to access the beta version of Midjourney. And that is, I've got this typed in already, midjourney.com/home. And that will bring you to this page. And what you want to be clicking on is join the beta. So if I click on that, this will then give you an option to set up your own account. Now, I've already set up mine, so I'm not going to run through this part. Set up the account, and then it will take you to something called Discord. Now, again, I've downloaded the app. I think you can use this online. I think there's an online version of Discord, but I'd recommend getting the app. What this is kind of like a forum where people will share stuff, but they can also access Midjourney as a sort of side plugin to Discord. When you first load up Discord, it's likely this won't be on here, even though you've just signed up through the Midjourney site. So you might just have to go back on here, click on join the beta, then go back and refresh Discord. And then you should see this little sailboat logo. When you click on it, that takes you to Midjourney. Now, we've got a load of different sort of options down here. Because I'm new to it, I'm going to go into one of these newbie rooms. And this is all I've really explored so far, because this isn't something I'm going to sign up to. I don't think I'll get the value from it, but I can certainly see value in it. But that's down to each individual to decide. So I'm going to click on a newbie room. And when you're on here, you can have a look at what other people are generating. So let's look at this. This amazing art is made by just typing in a few keywords. And in this case, I can see the keywords Dark Souls 4. So someone's typed in Dark Souls 4. It's generated 4 versions of what it might think that means. And that's what that is. Pretty amazing. You can then refine this, but we'll do that with our own kind of designs. And what I want to do is I'm not going to be generating anything like this, these really highly detailed sort of concept art style pictures. I want to do a logo. I want to do a kind of logo that I can then vectorize and make into a mirror. So let's start by going down to the bottom here, and this is where it all works. Okay, so let's get started. All I'm going to do is type in /imagine and then space. And now I can type in anything I want, and the Midjourney server will see it, try and interpret that and create 4 basic images for me. So I'm going to have, let's go lion logo design, 2D, flat, detailed. And I'm just going to press return. Now the thing about this, what is a little bit strange, is that everyone can see what you're doing, you can see what everyone else is doing, and it's in this kind of feed where you've just got to keep an eye on it. So here you go, and you'll see this percentage go up as it generates 4 different versions of a lion logo. Right, they're done. So let's take a look at this. So I'm looking mainly at this bottom left one, and to think that is generated completely from just my text prompt, this is 100% unique to me. If someone else typed in those exact same words as I was doing it or after I was doing it, they would not get this logo. So that, I think, is amazing. If I was just going to draw concepts of a lion head logo, that would take me a little while. So looking at them, I'd say not really what I was after, not even seeing that as a lion. That's a bit strange. Loving this one, and maybe not this one either. You've got a few options then. What you can do, if you decide this is all I want, I'm just going to go with this one, not sort of experiment anymore, you can click this and that will upscale that logo. And then that will go to the bottom of this forum and start generating. So you've just got to follow where that is. If I click on this, I can open this and save that, just so I've got a record of it. So you can kind of save this image. But what I want to do is kind of work on refining this logo that I like. And what you would do there is click the V buttons, and this gives you versions of either 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I want to see versions of number 3. So I click on V3, and that says it's making variations based on that logo design. And now let's have a look. Yeah, I'm really liking this one again now, but in fact, all of them. I like all of them. I prefer this one. And again, you can just keep doing this, but obviously in the trial version, you don't get unlimited amounts of images with this. And doing things like the versions and the upscaling does count towards the credits you get. But for now, let's have a look at this. I'll open the original of that. So this is what we'd kind of started with, asked for 4 different variations of that and got these. And I mean, I like all of these, but I think, you know, something like this is probably what I'm going to go for. I don't even know, I can't pick now, I really like them. So in fact, let's have a look at this. For some reason, I've just sort of like this. I like the sort of lion's mane coming down here. So I'm going to have a look at variations of that. I want to have a look at some different variations of version 4. So, and bear in mind, you know, this isn't something I can practice. Ordinarily, when I make a video, I'll do a sort of run through, make sure everything's working and stuff like that. This I can't, because everything this does is completely random. You know, if I was to make this exact same video using the same commands, I'm not going to get the same results. So let's have a look at that. View the original of this. I'm going to make a decision now, I think, because I want to start upscaling them and vectorizing them. So we started with this. Still really like the original one. Like all of those. Yes. I think I like this one. I really like the mane on this one here. So I'm going to upscale that. And that is easy enough to do as well. So I'm going to come here, go in with this one, upscale number 4. And then I'm going to wait for that to do. There is a 2 version upscale, and it will depend how big you actually need this logo. So we'll see if the first upscale does a good enough job. If not, I can go to upscale to max, and you can get that at something like 1600 by 1600 pixels, which is more than enough for a kind of small mirror. So let's take a look. And to save this, you have to do it through Open Original. If you try and right click on it and save image, it won't work. So let's open the original of this. Save image. And I'll save that there. And let's just check out the properties of this image and see if I need to upscale it again. So that's the pixel dimensions. I am going to upscale it again just because I want the best quality. So let's just go. All I would do then is click on upscale to max, and that's just going to take that up to the largest size. There are some other options here. This beta upscale redo will push it further than upscale to max, but when I've sort of tested this with other images, it almost deteriorates the detail, even though it's sort of upping the image size. So I didn't think that was worth doing. Right, here we go, open original, save as. I'm going to overwrite this one because I don't need the smaller version. And there you go, completely free, completely effortless, and completely unique. And I absolutely love it. I think it's such a cool thing. Right, so let's get this in Photoshop and prep it, ready to get it vectorized for the back of a mirror. Right, so I've got the image open in Photoshop and I haven't got any of my panels open. So let's just get up what we need. Firstly, I'm going to get up my channels. And then I'm going to get up my layers. Now, I'll do this as a sort of beginner tutorial, even though I've covered a few of these things before, but it's going to be quite quick. So, right, all I need to do is kind of make sure that I can extract this lion head design in solid black. And firstly, what I'm going to do, looking through my channels, I'm going to look for the channel with the most contrast between the black and the background. So the red is pretty good, green not so good, and the blue is pretty unusable. So the red channel is going to be the best thing to start with. And what I'm going to do straight away is I'm just going to duplicate that channel. and I'm going to duplicate it into a new document. And then all I'm going to do is then go to grayscale. So now that is a raster image with a single grey channel, and I can start just working on this. So just looking at this, I can see that it's sort of heavier at the bottom in tone than it is at the top. So I see, you know, although this is quite dark, it's still also quite dark around here, and I want to kind of eliminate that or apply a bit more contrast. If I do that overall, let's just go to my levels. So I can do this with Control and L, or Image Adjustments and Levels. And the levels represent your shadows, midtones, and highlights. And in this case, the blacks and the whites are what we're going to use. If I start pumping this up here to get a solid black across all of this, because I need this bit up here to be solid black, that's really sort of minimizing or making that less contrasty here, and I don't want that. So I need to almost edit this bottom part before I then kind of apply it to the whole lot. And the way I'm going to do that is by something called Quick Mask. Now you can access Quick Mask here, or you can just press Q. Now the way I work, if I just double click on this, I'll make sure that when my Quick Mask is being used, it's just selected areas is selected. I think by default it's masked areas, but I'll just do this. You only have to do this once. Once that's done, you can tell you're in Quick Mask because my layer has gone red. And now if I use things like a brush or a gradient or something like that, I'm going to paint what I want to select. So just for an example, here I've gone to my brush tool by pressing Control and B. And if I just sort of brush around here, when I come out of Quick Mask, that's my selection. Now that might not seem like that's that useful there, but it's really useful for using gradients. So I'm just going to press Q again, go back into Quick Mask. I'm going to go to my gradient. Now if that's not set by default, it's probably set to a paint bucket by default. You just click and hold, drag to gradient. And mine are set to black and white, which is what I want. If they're not, just press D, and that will reset that to black and white. And I'm thinking from around about here up to about here is where I want that gradient to be. So I'm just going to click, drag, and then I'm going to press Q. And although that looks like a solid selection, that isn't. That's solid up until the point where I started the gradient, and then that will be a sort of gradual tapering off of that selection. So now if I press Control and L to go into my levels, and I boost that white to get a bit more contrast between the sort of lion's mane and the background, you can see that's not affecting any of this up here, which is exactly what I wanted to do. So kind of make that nice solid black. Okay, so now I'm going to invert that selection. So I'm going to press Control, Shift and I, or I can go to Select, Inverse. And that means I've got that gradient selected, but it's now just picking up the stuff up the top rather than at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing, go to my levels and do the same sort of selection up here, but they're going to be kind of different parameters because of the tonal differences between the foreground and background. That is looking pretty good. We go OK, Control D to deselect. And then I'm just going to do it over the whole thing. As I can see, there's still some little bits in here that aren't solid black, but I want to be able to kind of make sure I don't, you know, give myself anything that's too much of a problem around these areas where there's a bit less contrast. So let's pull that in. And I haven't got to get rid of this whole background. You know, I can just do this quite easily now that I've got that as solid black by using a magic wand. Now the magic wand is something where you can just click select tonal values. So I'll show you over here. It will be in this little drop down. That's the wand. And what you've got here is a tolerance. So if I set this to 100, that's its maximum tolerance. And that means if I clicked in an area like this, you can see that's ignoring a load of this, the fact that there's different tones here, and just kind of saying, yep, we'll tolerate a massive difference in tone to make this selection. If I go to the flip side and do 1, and then click in this same area, that's selected 1 pixel, because it's not allowing me to kind of have a different tonal range within that selection outside of 1. So that's pretty handy, because it means now I can click and select my lion's head, and there's a couple of bits that the 1 pixel tolerance is not going to work with, so I can change that. I think maybe you can go as high as 4. And that's better. There's a little bit here, but I'm looking at that. That has got all of my lion's head without getting any of the background in. I need to shift select the bits that aren't connected. So these two little bits of the mane here. So just shift select those. And you can also shift select inside these little bits that didn't quite sort of pick up. But it might just be easier to kind of repaint that in. So that's our selection. This is our background layer. I'm just going to press Control and J. And that has just made a duplicate of everything that's selected. I'm going to hide my background layer. And that's it. Got the logo extracted, ready for use, and kind of we can put that into the Vinyl Master software to vectorize it. You can also see some of the tiny little bits up here that might need just patching in, and that's easy enough as well. I'm just going to press B, and that will take me to my brush tool. I can use my square bracket keys to scale my brush up and down. It's set to black down the bottom here, and then any of these little bits, just hold the space bar. That gives you a hand tool to pan around it. And, you know, it's easy, rather than sort of shift selecting some of those things, it is just sometimes easier to just go around and repaint those little dots in. So yeah, just going to go around, give a little check over that, pull that into Vinyl Master, and then we'll vectorize that and then start making a mirror. So that's a brief introduction into the world of AI art generation. It's not going to be for everyone. Even if it's not your cup of tea, I'd strongly recommend giving it a go, simply because the trial is free, you know, and with that free trial, you'll get about 25 free images you can generate and upscale. So even if you're not going to use it, it is fun to play around with. But I'm now going to make a mirror out of my lion's head design, but because I've covered all of the mirror making processes in other videos, I'm going to do the rest of the video as a time lapse, and then I'll put links to those videos up here as and when a process occurs, and I'll also put links in the description. So, I'm going to crack on with that now and see how it comes out.